Hi everyone, welcome to Finance Friday. We're back with another edition of Finance Friday, which is a very interesting topic today. So yesterday we threw out a question to the community asking you whether it is important to be married for financial stability. Almost unanimously the response was no. Interestingly, I have with me today Ritika Vaswani, who is a corporate lawyer, a single, successful and fiercely financially independent woman. Ritika, would love to hear a little more about you.
Thanks, Deepika. Yes, I am a corporate lawyer. I have been working for almost 10 years and I love spending time with family, friends, enjoying life, traveling and basically, loving to do things that I can. And as Deepika said, being single at times, in earlier times was not easy, but in today's days it's the best. It's good and it lets you enjoy life a lot.
Great. Okay, so Ritika, since you mentioned travel and knowing you, and since I've known you for fairly long now, travel is probably your weakness, your indulgence and all of that. How do you usually plan financially structure for this?
So I try and I do make it a point to save some amount every month. Earlier it started off with a really small sum. I would save maybe 1,000 rupees a month. But now as your risk appetite grows, I save a lot more for my travel expenses to ensure that when I travel, I have the luxury or I have the budget to do what I love. I love shopping, I love indulging myself and others, so that I can work within what I have saved for what I plan to do when I travel.
Great, so that is interesting. So you mentioned, I would assume you're an indulgent traveler.
Oh yes, most definitely.
So when that happens, and of course those are expenses we don't plan for usually, how do you kind of factor those things? Something that, I factored for 50,000 but this turns out it's 80,000. How does that work?
So initially I would most often than not spend everything on my credit cards and have huge credit card bills to pay, and I learned the hard way. I struggled at times to pay my credit card bills. I at one time thought I would never be free, but then I learned that I have to ensure that I have enough saved. So if I know I'm going to be taking an extra indulgent trip, I try to save a little more extra for that time. I'll reduce my cost, or I love shopping, I love doing those things, but if I know I'm going to travel, I'll reduce that. I'll spend less, but to ensure that when I travel, which is what I love, I have enough and more to save up and spend.
Yeah, makes sense that probably it might be a short-term compromise on things that are not so important, but that really helps you spend on stuff that means something to you, whatever your goal might be. So I had a quick question for you here, Ritika. What would you recommend to, let me put this in a different way. What would you recommend to your 25-year-old self? What would you wish you had done differently when it came to managing your money then?
I would wish that I learned faster to save, and although yes, I had people pushing me and telling me to save, I learned it the hard way. But in today's days, with platforms like Life on My Terms, it's easier to understand the mistakes that you could make or are making and correct them, because you have a community that helps you understand, and in situations that you live, it's our parents' generation is different from ours. And when you have peers and your people like you, and you can throw out your questions and ask them and get not only replies from you guys but from everyone else on the community. It's a thing that helps you learn, and I've seen so many questions out there, and it helps me learn as well when I read the questions and the answers.
Yeah, I think until maybe some years ago, even talking about money was taboo, but I'm glad we're having this conversation and adding more to the community. So what are some of your long-term financial goals? I know we talked travel, which is mostly, I would assume, short-term or near-term. But what are your long-term financial goals, and what have you done about them, if at all, or what are you doing about them?
my long-term financial goals are to ensure that I'm always or can always be financially independent or financially secure. More than independent,
Yeah.
I think the word secure would be a better word
Yeah.
to use.
Yeah.
And yes, initially it wasn't the case. When when you're starting out in your career, yes, obviously you do depend a lot on others, but it's that's always been the goal, that to be financially secure and be able to support yourself in tomorrow, a rainy day. Yes, we have our families. When you get married, you have your spouse.
Yeah.
But to be able to have that security for yourself is what my long-term financial goal is. I have been working towards it. I have my biggest person who has helped me is my parents. They have told me to save, and when I was, like I said, when I was in a position where I thought I would never clear my credit card bills, my dad sat me down and said, save. He said, I don't want your money when you save. It's for you on a rainy day tomorrow. Save as much as you want, whatever you want, divide your savings, but save every month.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. I do save. I save for investments, I save for my security, and I save for my indulgence, which is travel.
Yeah, makes total sense. And since you mentioned, I think it's been a couple of times now, you talked about the credit card aspect and probably overspending on that. So if I were to quickly ask you, what are 3 financial mistakes you've made?
Not knowing when to stop spending. Like, you always you think you have so much, but you don't.
Yeah.
Not starting to save on time.
Or early enough.
Yeah. Like, initially you should, I should have saved, like Deepika always told me, from the day I started working, but I didn't. So I think those are the mistakes that we, when we start earning and we start trying to be a little more financially independent, we make as youngsters. But then you do learn and grow over time, and and in today's days, in platforms like this and like as bases, they help you learn, they help you manage, and you learn and you can do it yourself. Even when you're financially planning yourself or saving, you can do it yourself and understand what you're doing. I would always be wary of investing in things that I didn't understand. When people told me invest in the mutual funds, invest in share markets, and I was like, I don't understand it, so how do I know what I'm getting myself into? And I think this is an amazing platform and opportunity and that you've given us, and that we can learn and do it ourselves.
Great, thank you for that. And I know several times we always say save for financial emergencies and all those things, and not to sound morbid, but what are some things that you've looked at probably in other people's lives that makes you feel secure that I'm glad I did this and I'm managing my money myself, I'm doing a fairly good job at it now?
And a lot of times you see people who are in situations that they wish they could get out of, but for reasons that they weren't able to be financially secure or independent, are either dependent on some family, some spouse.
Yeah.
And I think it's not about showing that yes, I have enough money as my parents or as much as my spouse, but being able to get out of a situation which you otherwise couldn't have. Today I feel in a position that I could, even when I'm choosing a partner, when I want to get married, I know I'm in a position that I am financially secure. And while yes, I'm not going to say that I have my own money, but to be in that position that I can choose who I want and how I want as well.
Yeah, you're not going to choose a partner based on their money, of course. And I think being in this space is very empowering in many ways. Great. So another question, very quickly, and this came from somebody from our community. How long does it take to be financially independent?
That's a really good question. It did take me a while when I started, but it would depend. It depends on your lifestyle, your cost of living, the manner of what you save, how much risk appetite you have. So it depends on your personality and your personal life, honestly. It's not something that you can put a timeline or a peg on to be.
Yeah, and I think it's important that, like Ritika mentioned, it's very personal. when you want to be financially independent, ideally what you should do is probably put down, I want to be financially free by like 2033, and put down what it would take you to get there. That's probably the best way of doing it, but it's very important to factor in your own lifestyle, and you're going to work towards being financially independent for yourself. So put down these basic numbers and try and understand your money better and build a better relationship with it. Okay. So another question for you, Ritika. Again, this came from our community. How often are you asked when you're getting married?
Once a day? No, fairly often. It's also because we come from a generation where it was thought that marriage would make you secure. In a way, yes, marriage is important. Yeah. I'm not saying it's not important, but in today's days, I think we are growing to a stage where it's acceptable to find yourself, be financially secure, be independent before you go and find your life partner.
Yeah, I think that is so well put. Yeah, I think find yourself first, find that financial security for yourself before you go out to find a life partner. So great. So as a parting note, Ritika, what are a couple of things that you would like to share with the women in our community? And if there's been any struggle or any of it career-wise in your past which you think other women might be facing, what would you advise?
I would only advise one thing, which I've learned from my own mistakes, that while we find that freedom initially, we sometimes lose track of the right way, and to be, especially when in our early 20s, we tend to overindulge in our newly found financial independence. So I would say take advantage of these communities, life on my terms, and to understand everyone doesn't have to save everything they earn, but to start saving small, so that tomorrow you have a big enough saving to be secure on your own. I think that's one thing that I would have liked to learn earlier in my life than later, and I wish everyone who is in their early 20s and is enjoying their freedom today, just to learn to just take that one step back and plan better.
Great. Thank you so much, Ritika.
Thank
a lot
you for
of things that have come across here. I mean, the fact that you were okay to talk about mistakes you made these are topics nobody talks about. I overspent on my credit card, hush hush, and let's not talk about it. But yeah, these are real life problems. They happen to a lot of us, and it only makes sense to understand what to do better. And yeah, the fact that before you're looking for a life partner, look out for yourself, plan your own financial stability before beginning that journey. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And great. Looking forward to the next couple of Finance Fridays. Stay tuned. And if you have any questions for Ritika, please drop them in the comments, and we'll be sure to have them answered by her. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.